The podcast, or if you're on YouTube, then you're watching Overcoming Distractions, the YouTube podcast. My name's Dave Greenwood, and I am the author of the book Overcoming Distractions. Comes out November 1st. And I am here today with somebody who spent some great quality time with me in the book. His name is Spencer Shulem, and he is from Santa Barbara, California, where it's always nice out there. And, let me give you a little bit of background about Spencer. He's been an app developer since he was 13 years old. I don't know how old he is now. We can maybe get that out of him. He has developed a number of apps, and he is now the co-founder of an app that helps keep you and your family organized called WeDo. So welcome, Spencer.
Thank you so much. And to answer your question, I'm 21 years old right now.
21. So you've got a few years developing apps. So I don't know what I was doing when I was 13, but certainly was not developing apps. Actually, apps didn't exist when I was 13. So kind of show my age. So Spencer, we talked, I got a little bit of your life history in the book.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think a lot of people with ADHD share is maybe the struggles in school, and everybody's different. So you've got everybody from people that maybe did well, but couldn't focus. Maybe they needed extra test time, to the people who literally flipped the desk over because they were frustrated. So talk to me about kind of growing up and schooling with ADHD. What are the kind of the challenges you had and how you felt you were accommodated?
Yeah, I mean, I went to, I was very, very fortunate here to be able to go to a private school. And my parents kind of felt like that was, a little bit of a necessity for me, because very early on, they can kind of tell, like, I'm going to need a little more attention than most to kind of get what I needed to get done. But I think no one really realized just how much effort it was going to take to kind of have me focus and get things done, and kind of stay on track. And my mom, my mom's actually like an ADHD coach and life coach right now, partly because of how much time she had to spend and learn to kind of help me in school. And it was pretty bad. Like I remember distinctly never enjoying waking up, going to school. Homework was a pain. Tests were a pain, and they weren't especially hard for me. It was always a struggle to try and like enjoy what I was doing, and trying to pay attention to the people around me. And the teachers were my biggest problem. It was never the material. It was always like the teachers had a problem with me because I was the one that wasn't, sitting in line and sitting patiently and listening. I was always the one that kind of caused problems, and they didn't know how to handle that. I mean, ADHD in school is a relatively new concept for a lot of these teachers. Before that, you were just a bad student and you should be held back or go to another school that could deal with you. So when it was kind of discovered that like, oh, this is a disability, but we don't need to help hold these kids back, we should just learn how to deal with them. They kind of put themselves in a box where, they had these rules where they couldn't like hurt the kid, they couldn't put the kids back and throw the kids somewhere else. They had to actually deal with them. But they really had no idea how. They don't, I can't blame them. Like they have no formal training on how. And so that was the biggest struggle was, I was kind of in that peak where ADHD was, starting to become a really big trend. Or just being diagnosed finally. And yeah, it was pretty painful. I mean, I was sent to principal's office almost 3 times a week, and kicked out of school in 5th grade, explicitly for my ADHD. And yeah, I mean, it was not a fun experience in that time.
Yeah. So you feel that you didn't necessarily do bad in school. It's just when you wanted to, or not wanted to, or you were forced to do homework or other things. It just probably didn't stimulate that part of your brain. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah. I mean, my school that I went to specifically was a very advanced school. So like we were doing like 9th grade biology and even algebra in like fourth, fifth grade. And I was doing fine, like grade wise. But I'd finish it and then I'd just cause a ruckus or I'd just be bored. Where everyone else could just sit there calmly and, listen to the teacher. So yeah, definitely.
So what types of because I pretty much flunked out of freshman year of high school. I mean, I guess I'm not shy about saying that, but that is like you say, I don't think they actually keep students back anymore. They just kind of accommodate them as they move forward. So, well, what types of things were you interested in that really kind of sparked your interest? Obviously, it was technology, but kind of talk about what kind of really kind of sparked your interest.
Yeah, I mean, technology was really interesting for me because I could do as much as I wanted without waiting for someone else, right? Like technology, you don't have to wait for a professor to come over or a teacher to come over and help you. You don't have to, wait for the next assignment. There's no end to the book. It just is an ever-growing platform that you can just constantly discover. So for me, like it's almost an addicting platform because there's just so much stuff. And I loved it. I mean, I went to, computer science camps and I went to programs. I remember, I think in fourth grade summer, my school was holding like this computer camp and they're teaching, typing, and I think towards the end of the summer, even like a little bit of web development and Dreamweaver. And, halfway through, the teacher went to my mom and was just like, there's nothing else for me to teach your kid. Like, does he want to be a TA? Like, I don't know what to do. And so I did that for 2 summers. I was just like a TA and I helped set up computers and I helped teach people programming. And so for me, that was just such a passion for me at a very early age. And I was very fortunate again to not only have a school that had computers, but also had, teachers that were very passionate about it. And that really kind of sparked a lot of my passion.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because I've got a 10-year-old now and with extreme focus issues, and we just enrolled him in what they call the Scratch Club, which I guess is a computer program developed by MIT.
Yeah.
And the same thing, he loves video games, like what kid doesn't at this point, but he's able to, and at the time we're talking right now, he's only had one class. It's after school. It's what they call the Scratch Club. But he was able to put, like SpongeBob and what have you, and move them around and make them do things. And it actually kind of, but I'm hoping that maybe it's something that, maybe he does kind of grab onto because he is very creative. He's a great artist. He draws really well. He likes the video games. And if we're going to kind of try and push him into not a career at 10, but something that he might. And then, so it sounds like kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, Scratch was great. I think I picked up Scratch when in like 7th grade. One of my teachers started teaching it to everyone, and I think it was fairly new. I think it was been around for maybe a year or so, and it was great. I mean, I remember my friends who were just artists, like they just loved drawing, and they were able to actually animate now their art into making a little game.
Yeah, I mean that's cool
Yeah. It's kind of incredible.
Yeah. So you talked about kind of jumping off the school thing, but one thing we talked about back several months ago when we were putting the book together is just you changing your kind of thought process. And I've got somebody else in the book that talks a lot about just kind of managing your own thoughts, but you had talked about that was pretty successful in, kind of 2 steps, managing your own thoughts, but also trying to get away from the negativity of ADHD or people around you. Talk about how you did that, how you realized that would be beneficial to you. Talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, my mom did an incredible job at that age, but I think something she wasn't aware of and something that I had to really realize was, it was put as a negative thing. If I were to talk to my mom, hey, I had a hard time doing this, the general response was, that's because you have a disability. And when you're young and you're a kid, you look at that as kind of, put in a box of all these other kids with disabilities. And that is a very long spectrum. Like there are kids who, have a hard time talking and looking at people, and, that's in the same spectrum as just someone with ADHD. So, when someone came to me and said, you have a disability and you can't do this, at the time, I just let myself go on that. I was like, okay, I can't do that. And I do have a disability. And, as I started to get into computers, I was like, wait, why am I focusing for 4 hours at a time on my computer? Why am I loving this and not having the same problems I do at school? And so for me, it was just really changing that perspective in my head where I said, I don't want to look at myself as having a disability. I just want to say I'm not great at a few things. I'm not great at paying attention in biology class or something like that. But I'm great at computers and I'm great at paying attention there. And I think that was a really big shift for me. And it's subtle, but it's, really important to kind of be honest with yourself and then also not let yourself have excuses with any of your, disabilities. So I just kind of took that out of my vocabulary. I didn't tell in high school, no one knew I had ADHD. At the time I started living with my dad and we just didn't apply for any ADHD stuff. It was kind of there because it, transfers up as you kind of go through school, you get extra time on tests and stuff like that. But I refused to take any of it. I forced myself to use the normal time to take a test, the normal time to finish homework. And the teachers were generally not even aware that I had it at all. And so that was kind of my big point was, I had friends at the same time in high school who, again, like had ADHD and stuff like that. And they really used it as like a crutch. They would kind of use it like, oh, well, I have a hard time doing this. And I just wouldn't tell them I had ADHD as well. But I was just like, you see when people have a reason to not be good at something, they'll use that and they'll keep using that. So my biggest thing in high school was really just to get out of the mindset of you have a disability, there's something wrong with you, and start getting into the mindset of let's focus on what you're good at and let's focus at what you excel at, and really just kind of get the negativity of the people around me and everything. Because teachers, they don't try to be as well, but they will be negative. If you tell them you have a disability, they'll come up to you and be like, is the time okay? Like, do you need extra time? They'll be very sweet about it, but you're thinking to your head, like, I have a disability, there's something wrong with me. Everyone's looking at me because this teacher's trying to talk to me about something. And you just kind of get down about yourself. And I think that was a really bad part of my childhood, was that kind of negativity towards being different.
Right. Now, so it sounds like you learned an early lesson of focusing on your strengths.
Yeah.
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 And to this day, now that you're in business for yourself, and we'll chat about that in a few minutes.
Yeah.
One of the things that all the coaches say and the doctors, and, focus on your strengths, push off your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Is that something you really practice hard to this day, being in business?
Yeah, I mean, I think being the CEO, you don't have a choice sometimes of what you have to do. A lot of times I'm doing the things I'm not strong at. But I think, there's a few times, I was talking to someone about this where, you basically have like two options. Like you either, we're a very small team, like, we raised like a round last year and we have like 5 people right now. You're either the person who's doing it or it's not going to get done. And that's a really small box to live in. And so, yeah, I mean, I just have to kind of convince myself that, no one else is going to be able to do it better than I can because I understand it the best. And you just have to figure it out. But I always try and play each role I have to put on to my strengths. If it's writing, which is something I'm not great at, how can I write in a way that's fun and energetic and plays to my strengths? If I have to like learn something or read, like, we had a 53-page contract the other day that I had to read. I can't pay attention to that kind of stuff. So, how can
I can
I,
totally relate to that.
I know, and it's insane. So I was like, what can I do to make this a little bit more fun? So I kind of broke it up into pieces and kind of chugged down it, over the course of a week. And had a lawyer kind of help me parse through it and made fun of it. I would read an article and be like, okay, like what were they trying to say? Can I understand something about legal by reading this? And I'd ask questions to the lawyer and he'd respond back, and it was fun. Like I kind
I
of
think the whole
enjoyed it.
point of some of these contracts is to make you not understand.
I
So,
know. You're
so you
telling me.
take it as a challenge, huh?
I know they'll say the same thing on 53 times on 53 different pages. And yeah, but it was definitely uh, I still struggle with stuff, and I really try and acknowledge it and just accept it and just say this is going to be hard for me, but I have to get it done.
Yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. Well, speaking of
so
getting stuff done, so let's talk about. We're going to talk about your app, WeDo, because I know that's been out for a few months now. But
yeah,
um, you know, and if I get you correctly, it obviously has to do with organization and getting things done, and maybe keeping other
yeah.
people in your life organized as well. So, what prompted you to kind of start the process of creating an app to help people stay organized? Was it
Yeah.
from your own needs, or?
Yeah, I mean, my first app I ever made was a productivity app called Do It, and that was when I was like I think 13, 14, and I kind of co-created with one of my friends. Um, and the point of that was, my mom would always say, "Hey, in 10 minutes, come down and do the dishes, or I'm going to take away your laptop," which is a very good incentive. And so,
For a programmer, yeah.
yeah. And so, I swear to you, even to this day, 5 minutes later, she would be like, it's 10 minutes, come down. And so I basically made an app that times when I need to go do something. And it kind of evolved into an app where you could set a timer for, 10 minutes and say, I need to write an email in 10 minutes. And it will actually open up your email program in 10 minutes and force you into doing that next thing. So I've always kind of used my life as a reference point for, what I want to fix. And since I'm so much into the tech scene, I probably have like 400 apps on my phone. Like I'm constantly downloading new apps. Um, I've always felt like I never found a to-do list that really worked well for me. Um, and when talking to a lot of other people with ADHD, people without ADHD, they seem to kind of say the same thing, is there's either kind of two types of platforms: really, really complicated to-do list apps that are insanely, it takes you a week just to set up, and then it takes you an hour just to add a task. And then you have kind of the other playing field, which is extremely simple. Like you basically just add it's like a notepad. You add a task, you add it, and that's basically it. And we kind of live in the happy medium. Like we want to be able to have some advanced features, but we also want to keep it insanely simple. So that was kind of the birth of creating our own to-do list app. And so it's called WeDo, and it's really a insanely simple to-do list app. There's nothing crazy in it, but it has a lot of the incredible features that people use without the real life, without having to pay. So we have like repetitive tasks and notes and due dates and reminders and subtasks. And then you can use it for yourself. And then what we kind of realized is there's two types of apps. There's kind of the collaborative, use with other people, plan things, and then the personal, use by yourself, which is just not reflecting of the real world. That we do both all the time. We're constantly working with other people, and we're constantly working on things by ourselves.
Right.
So we made
Yeah.
WeDo for that purpose. So you can work on your own tasks, or we call them spaces. You can create a space, invite someone to that space, and work on tasks with those people. And it's 100% free, which is really kind of crucial for us. And yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible tool that I've used, and I think one of the most important things that I've loved is families are like addicted to it because they're able to kind of get their husband or spouse, they can assign a task to them, and you can't say you didn't get it on your list. And so that's been kind of a huge milestone for us.
So this can be used in business or in home. So you could use it to help manage a team in your company or manage the household. You could create a shopping list, different things like that. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, we have really, I was just talking to one of our customers who's in South Africa, which is just crazy to me. And he's using it to manage his small business. And so he's actually, a little bit more than a small business. I think he has like 50 employees. And he has different departments like accounting and product and shipping. So we'll just create different spaces for all those and invite people to those space and work on the tasks with them and kind of keep track of everything. And then we have, even coaches have used our product where they'll invite people that they're coaching and just keep track of what they're getting done, kind of help them remember on what's getting done. So it's kind of been a great tool for almost every aspect of life. But our big thing, to your point, is using it with work and using it with family and using it with personal without having like 100 lists on your to-dos and kind of having it all meshed together. We very well separate everything into their own little space. So you can focus on your personal, you can focus on your work, you can focus on your family without having to think about all the other stuff you need to get done.
I would have never thought of that idea in terms of coaches, like professional coaches or life coaches, where they would help their clients stay on task.
Yeah,
that's kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, and it's been going really well so far, and we're constantly getting feedback from our users of kind of features that they'd like to see. But yeah, I mean, we've been surprised by who's been using our product and just kind of getting that feedback back from them.
That's cool. So whether you have ADHD or not, and we probably all know the answer to this, but maybe we need to dig deep a little bit. But, whether you have ADHD or not, why do you think a lot of us are disorganized?
For me personally, I'm not a professional in this area at all, but I can with confidence say for myself, I think it's disorganized to an organized person. And I really think that's like a really big distinction. My mom will come up to my room constantly when I was younger and said, everything's everywhere. I don't know where anything is. And I say, that's fine. I need to know where everything is, not you. And so, to someone else, I might come off as extremely unorganized. But to me, I know where everything is, if I needed to find it. And in fact, my mom, just the other day, I was over at her house and I put my keys down on the counter. And she likes putting other people's stuff in one spot so everyone knows where it is. And I lost my keys because she moved it to somewhere else. And I knew where I put it, but she, moved it to somewhere else. So to her, I was extremely unorganized. I'm throwing myself away. I'm throwing myself all over the place. And for her, it was in kind of one spot. I think it's just, for me, I'm never working on one thing. And I know a lot of people, they focus on one thing and then they move to the next thing and then they move to the next thing. So to be unorganized with that mindset is really, really hard because you have all these things going on around you and you can only focus on one thing. So for me, multitasking is, I think, one of the greatest gifts ADHD has. So, I'll be working on an email, then I'll be working on, coding, and then I'll be working on a design. I'll be working on sending something to the team. So at any given time, I probably have 100 tabs open and 20 programs open. And people will literally look at my screen and like laugh at me. They're like, how can you possibly get anything done in your life? So, I think the reason why it, is perceived as unorganized is just because we're constantly working on a lot of stuff. And we kind of have that scattered brain where, I'm thinking about 10 things in one day. I'm not focusing on one thing per day. And so I think it's just, the name of the game. It's just how we think and how we work. And if everyone had ADHD, we wouldn't call it unorganized. We just call it, that's how things look.
That's how life is.
Yeah.
Well, I think business in general has gotten a little ADHD. I mean, because we do, technology has maybe forced the workforce to more demands on them. Do this, do that, or employers are. Again, it could be the sign of the times where you're given more tasks to do in a set number of hours or days or what have you. So
yeah, I mean, not not long ago, factory task specialization was a very common trend in corporate and in production. And so, it was a well accepted idea that, keep your desk clean and focus on one thing, and you're good at one thing and just do that one thing for the rest of your life. And now it's like, a marketer is also going to be a designer and also going to be a producer and also going to, it's like there's no really one job title anymore. I'm sure as you, as you're experiencing as well, it's like, you're not just writing a book, you're writing a book, you're marketing the book, you're talking to people, you're doing a lot of stuff where maybe 20 years ago, you would have just written the book, send it off to someone who does the marketing, who does the PR, who does everything else. And now it's, kind of everyone's game. No one's going to do it for you, and you have to figure out everything yourself.
Yeah, no, it's true. And, in my day job where I run a PR and video marketing firm, I do have a set of clients that, they'd be more on a, not per project, but, on a retainer base where you are doing everything. You're doing, you're managing their website, you're managing their PR, you're doing video content for them.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, part of the website went down. You're the go-to person to the web developer. And you're like, how did I get into all this stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, versus you're right. There used to be a PR department and a marketing department and your designer. And yeah, so you're right. We're multitasking whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
So give me, it could be from an ADHD point of view. It could be from a person who's developed a solution to stay organized or stay on task. But kind of give us some tips on just the basics of staying organized. And maybe it is the business, maybe it's the house. Obviously, technology is a big part of this now. But what are your kind of basic tips?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we kind of developed WeDo, for me personally was, I needed a to-do list app, and I strongly, I think WeDo is a great product, but of course, but I think everyone has their own, little niche with what products they use. But I think everyone would agree, writing down what you need to get done, and sticking to that is really important. And, one of the things we're adding, which I'm really excited about, which has helped a lot, is, keeping track of how long you think something's going to take to finish. So, in our product, we're launching a feature where you can say, this task is going to take me 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour to finish. And then you can kind of organize your task list based on how long things you think are going to take. And, we're great liars to ourselves. We think we always optimistic on how long something's going to take. There's a fun articles about that. But, by and large, just writing something down and keeping to that list and looking at it, I think has been kind of my biggest advantage, to kind of keeping track of what needs to get done. Because I think with ADHD, being that kind of multitasking scattered brain all over the place, a lot of times what will happen is, I'll open up an email and someone will send me another email that I need to respond to right now, or send me a message. And then I go do that thing and I'm like, oh crap, like I totally forgot about this thing I was just working on. So I have like this thing where the second something comes into my head or someone emails me, I'll just add it to my task list. So that's why we kind of have WeDo on every single platform, because you need to just literally, that's why people still use pen and paper. You need something that you literally can just pick up a pen and scribble down really, really quickly and be done. And then when you're finished your task, you can look at your list and say, oh, that's the thing I needed to do next. So every second that it takes longer to add something to your list, you're probably not going to do it. So, for me, just having something that's insanely simple, insanely quick, was really important. So that's kind of been the big thing for me, is I'll have my to-do list open on my window 24/7 of what I need to do next. And if someone emails me or messages me about something I need to do, I'll just quickly add it to my list, hit enter, and then go back to whatever I was doing, because I don't want to forget. And so I think that was the hardest thing. Was in high school, I really didn't have that pleasure. And, if you ask my mom, I would literally come home with like pockets full of notes of things I needed to get done, like just pockets. Like I would tear little edges of paper. I'd write really, really small on a notepad and tear it and then put it in my pocket. I had no way of keeping track of things I wanted to do when I got home.
Well, did it work?
It did. I mean, the sad part is I probably have buckets now full of these little notes. And the funny part is I never really read the notes, but once I wrote it down, I remembered it. So that was the real big thing, is, just writing it down. And I'll be honest with you, I probably have a lot of stuff on my to-do list that I haven't marked off. But I've finished, and it's because I wrote it down and I typed it out and I hit enter, I'm going to remember to do it. And so that's kind of been the single best thing. And there's a lot of little things that, I think individuals will kind of realize about themselves and improve over time. Some people aren't great with time management with ADHD. Some people are. Some people aren't great with keeping track of the things in their life. Some people are. Like I rarely lose things, whereas a lot of people who with ADHD lose things often. And for me, like I also have OCD, and so like every little thing I have in my life is immaculate. Like I cannot stand scratches. Where some people with ADHD, they don't care. Everything around them is damaged and kind of dinged up because they're all over the place, and they kind of
their car's a mess. You see these cars in the full of clothes and books, and papers, and I'm the same way. My car's clean, and I didn't get the lateness. I'm actually always early for a meeting. I'm always early. I'm like terrified of being late for a meeting. So
yes,
we all have kind of individual intricacies,
Yeah. And so, for some people, I know some coaches would probably say, make sure you schedule things 15 minutes before and you're leaving on time, and don't, for me, that's not a problem. So I think everyone kind of has to find their own niche, but I think the most universal thing is to write down what you need to get done right when it happens. Because I think everyone struggles from just forgetting what they need to do next. And yeah, that's definitely the number one thing for me to keep organized.
Cool. Awesome. So do me a favor. Give me that 90-second pitch about WeDo, and then tell people where they can find the app, where they can get a hold of you.
Yeah. So you can download WeDo right now. It's 100% free. All of our features are always 100% free. You can just search on the App Store, WeDo, WEDO, or you can go to wedo.com, WEDO.com. Don't ask us how much that domain costs. Fun number. But essentially, people who love our product are people who, are typically fairly familiar with to-do lists. So you write down a task, kind of get what you need to get done. You can assign tasks to other people, work on your own tasks, set reminders, subtasks, due dates, whatever you need. And our big focus with our product is to keep it simple. So you'll kind of see that throughout our period, where every feature we're going to add and everything we do, we're going to keep it insanely simple and to help you be productive. And even though we have like a good amount of users right now, we'll probably respond to any feedback you give within like probably an hour. We're dedicated to just make the best to-do list app out there. So we want to hear your thoughts and kind of make this to-do list that you want to use. So yeah, that's essentially it. It's such a simple product. It's hard to go any longer, but yeah.
Cool. No, that's great. I like simple. I'm looking at my my kid just went into 5th grade, so he's gone from elementary school to the middle school, and all different. Now he's gone from one class to now they're going to periods. They're going to 5 or 6 classes a day, and I've got the general binder that he has. Then he has a daily planner, and then he has folders for each class, like ELA or social studies. And then we have what they call a Google Classroom, which everything is on there. And I'm like, if my wife and I can't figure this out, he's 10 times, and my point is just put it in one place. Just keep it simple. Tell me what he needs to do for homework. Tell me what he already did. We'll get it done. So, and simple is simple's my middle name.
I know. And I hated having 5 different productivity apps to get, my work, my personal, an event that was coming up, my family that had things I needed to get done. And all of them, they all have their own like, oh, download an app for your family, download an app for work, download an app for your personal life. And it's just insane. Like they all don't differ that much. Why do I need 5 different apps for the same thing? So it's really, your exact point is why we made WeDo. It's a great point.
I think you should send it to the education system.
Yeah, we're definitely focusing on like coaches and people in schools and working with families and stuff like that. So we're really excited to kind of hopefully push it even more into education. I think that was my big passion. So
yeah,
absolutely.
That's cool. Awesome. Hey, thanks for your time. If you want to download WeDo, we'll have the link up on the website and in the what they call the show notes. But it's WeDo. I like it simple, like I just said. So this sounds incredible. Spencer, thank you so much for your time. You shared a great story in the book as well, and I hope that's going to help other people, as they enter adulthood, navigate their ADHD and hopefully they can be as successful as you are.
Yeah, and thank you for writing the book. I think it was an incredible book. I definitely loved reading it.
Let's hope lots of people read it. So thank you again, and we'll be chatting soon.
All right. Have a good day.